Hello and welcome back to Wayne's World. I'm Wayne, and with me as always is Sarah.
Hey folks, always a pleasure.
Today, we're going deep. We're unpacking Jason Giorgiani's idea of a big data apocalypse, or as I like to call it, the digital singularity collapse, and then pushing it into cosmic scale. Can his theory help explain the Fermi paradox?
Ooh, mixing conspiracy, philosophy, and astrobiology. That's ambitious. But let's see if it holds water.
First, let me sketch what I take to be Giorgiani's thesis, or at least a strong reading of it. Giorgiani speaks of converging technologies, biotech, AI, VR, data accumulation. And he suggests that at some threshold, the accumulation and processing of data itself becomes a kind of existential stressor on the system of reality. He talks of a collapse or reset when a civilization pushes too far.
Right, analogous to a technological singularity, but with a built-in danger. Not just runaway intelligence, but a kind of overload or a computational ceiling.
Exactly. And Giorgiani frames this as more than metaphor. He claims information has physicality, that bits have thermodynamic cost, in line with Landauer's principle, and that large-scale information structures have to obey constraints. He suggests that when a civilization accumulates too much data or consumes too much computational resource, it risks triggering a catastrophic information collapse, essentially causing the system to reset, destroy, or fold in on itself.
Let me push back. That sounds poetic, but can we make it precise? We know from thermodynamics and information theory that erasing bits costs energy, Landauer's bound. So yes, there is a cost to information processing. But the question is that cost ever going to approach a threshold that forces civilization-scale collapse? The jump from bits cost energy to civilization implodes under data is huge.
Fair point. But Giorgiani would say, and I'm paraphrasing, but following his logic, that advanced civilizations push toward ever more complexity, more sensors, more AI, more simulation, more VR, more data streams. And at some point, the data set of their world model becomes so large that maintaining internal consistency and coherence becomes untenable. Thus, they either shut down, explode, or get reset.
Interesting.
He suggests that within 300 years, data will have a mass, the equivalent of the moon, and that it will press down on the crust of the Earth where the data centers are and cause a crust slippage. You don't want something the mass of the moon on Earth. Luckily, he says that there will be some early warning signs like compasses not working and gravity wells in those areas, but at that stage, we may not be able to put a stop to it.
So it's a kind of cosmic overquantification apocalypse.
Yes, and he also suggests that this is not unique to humans. He speculates that any technological civilization could hit that threshold, and that perhaps many do, which is why we don't see mature, hyperdata civilizations out there.
That's how you begin to tie this into Fermi. Interesting. Before we merge them, let's quickly recap the Fermi paradox. The question is, if intelligent life is not extremely rare, why haven't we seen evidence of extraterrestrials? Why no messages? No visible civilizations? No galaxy-scale engineering? Etc.
The usual attempts, the great filter, they usually self-destruct. The zoo hypothesis, they hide from us. The percolation, or slow expansion models. And the idea that civilizations convert to post-biological forms we can't detect.
Another is the temporal mismatch. Maybe civilizations flare and fade too quickly, or signals get drowned in noise.
Or their signals are not in forms we expect.
Right. So there is room to insert Giorgiani-style collapse as one of those filter proposals.
Okay, now we merge. Suppose the data collapse threshold is a universal constraint. Civilizations can expand, build sensors, run simulations, accumulate knowledge, but eventually hit a boundary where the computational burden is catastrophic. At that moment, they collapse, reset, or change mode, thereby wiping out detectable traces.
That's a bold move. But it has attractive features. It gives a kind of natural cap on how long a civilization can remain outwardly visible at high complexity. It might explain why we don't see super long-lived high-bandwidth civilizations.
Yes, it becomes a measure. Civilizations have a lifetime window from tech birth to collapse. Many would die before achieving galaxy-scale engineering. Only a few might stagger through.
But there are challenges. First, how universal is the data ceiling? Would it be the same physics everywhere? Could advanced physics find ways around computational cost? Could some civilizations compress, prune, or abstract data to avoid overload?
Good points. But Giorgiani's idea posits that any strategy still has a cost. The more you compress, the more energy or complexity you invest. Every representation, every model is a trade-off. And there might be diminishing returns. Also, some collapse modes might be silent. That is to say, civilization folds inward, deleting traces, becoming unobservable.
So rather than blowing up, they might go dark, and we wouldn't detect them.
Exactly. So the end state might not be destroyed civilization, but latent civilization, abiding in minimal computational mode, like a civilization that has pruned itself to survive internally.
That begins to resemble hypotheses about post-biological civilizations or minimal energy strategies, only maintaining essential processes, not broadcasting, not expanding.
Let me enumerate what I see as merits of the hypothesis. 1. A natural filter built into information physics, not just social self-destruction. 2. Explains scarcity of high-complexity civilizations. 3. Predicts dark states civilizations go underground computationally. 4. Scales with our concerns about data overload today, gives us an anthropic mirror.
And my criticisms. 1. Lack of empirical anchor. We don't have a known civilization that collapsed from data. 2. Alternate pathways. Perhaps civilizations adopt radically different architectures. Quantum, non-digital, analog, etc. 3. Parameter sensitivity. The threshold depends on unknown constants. Efficiency of computing. Energy sources. Cooling. Physical limits. 4. Anthropic bias. We might be biased to expect civilizations to build data centers like us, when they might evolve differently.
Totally fair. Also, if a civilization can prevent collapse by self-limiting, that is to say, never accumulating beyond safe thresholds, then some might avoid collapse entirely. That begs the question, are the civilizations we don't see the ones who survived by being minimal?
That's almost like the silent minimal survivor hypothesis.
Yes. And to push further, perhaps the master strategy of advanced species is to remain under the radar, not to explode in data production.
That also resonates with the dark forest idea in Fermi literature. Best to stay quiet, safer to avoid attracting attention.
Giorgiani does speculate that this has happened here before. He believes that this is how Atlantis was destroyed.
You mean Atlantis was destroyed due to too many cat videos? Shocking.
Imagine we are an alien civilization 500 million years ahead. We've built massive sensor arrays, virtual universes, predictive models of everything. Our databases are in the zettabytes, maybe yottabytes, exabytes beyond. At some point, maintaining coherence, cross-checking every model, avoiding contradictions, running consistency checks might cost more energy or entropy than we can sustain. We then either shut off parts, collapse sections, or revert to a simpler mode.
I'll play skeptic. Couldn't you modularize? Partition subsystems? Let each planet or node have local autonomy and only sync occasionally. That reduces global load.
Yes, partitioning helps, but to maintain a unified civilization, you eventually need global coordination and coherence. And if you never fully sync, you risk divergent civilizational fracturing. But maybe only some civilizations accept fragmentation. Others collapse.
Another thought. What about civilizations built on non-digital substrates? For example, quantum computing, analog computing, or even something entirely non-computational. For example, consciousness-based systems. Could they sidestep the digital bit overload problem?
Good counter. Giorgiani's thesis is strongest if one assumes information, in some form, is universal and not exclusively digital bits. Even if the substrate is different, any system that accumulates data, representations, models, predictions faces a scaling cost. The argument would need to generalize to representational complexity, not just digital bits.
Right. So perhaps the threshold is in model complexity rather than bits consumed.
And in that case, a civilization's cognitive load might be the real filter, not just physical bits.
Another test. In our own history, are there mini data collapses? Societies that overextended with knowledge systems, bureaucracies, and had systemic failure. We might analogize those as miniature versions.
Exactly. Historical collapses, empires, bureaucracies, can be seen as toy models. Too much complexity, too little feedback, collapse follows. So the big data apocalypse is a cosmic extrapolation of a known pattern.
So what are the practical or speculative consequences if Giorgiani plus Fermi is true? It suggests we are perhaps in the narrow window before collapse, or we must consciously limit our own data expansion. It implies many civilizations might silently hibernate rather than expand overtly. It underscores that detectable expansion, like megastructures, Dyson spheres broadcasting, might be rare because civilizations get pruned before they get there. It may guide where we look. Perhaps look for low signal, low activity, minimal civilizations rather than loud beacons.
Yes, and one dark silver lining. If the collapse is real, maybe the reset isn't total destruction. Maybe it transforms civilizations into more sustainable modes. Then perhaps some civilizations, long ago, reset and are still around in a quiet mode.
That gives a testable hypothesis. Search for low power, low flux anomalies, a star system with odd background noise, but no glaring beacon.
And our own behavior. As we push AI, data warehouses, VR, simulation, the idea warns us, be careful of runaway complexity without checks. So that's how I see Giorgiani's big data apocalypse hypothesis, potentially giving a new twist on the Fermi paradox.
And how I see the strengths, the places it needs sharpening, and where it might break. But it's a provocative model.
Indeed. Next time, maybe we'll explore dark forest plus data collapse hybrids, or how simulation theory ties in.
That'll be fun. Until then, stay skeptical but don't stop asking the big questions.
This has been Wayne's World. See you next time.
Goodbye, folks.